Hi guys, welcome to the muscle draw videos. I wanted to do a few things before we begin, or mention a few things before we begin. The first is that I want to make sure you guys are studying the OIAs that you have been given by your teacher or professor. The reason for that is that each professor kind of chooses how precise they want to be about each OIA, and I want to make sure that if I mention something and your professor or your teacher has decided to be more or less precise, that you obviously get the correct answer for your class. The second is that I want to mention I won't be covering muscle actions. The reason for that is that if I did, this video would get very, very long and everybody would stop paying attention, but also because it's not the point of this exercise. The point of this exercise is to learn the origins and insertions of the muscles, to be able to see them on a skeleton, and then once you do that, you should be able to take a pretty educated guess as to the action of the muscle, and hopefully you may not have to study those as much. The third thing I want to mention is to make this your own. So I am going to be showing you how I use this exercise, but you are welcome to tweak it and change it and make it the best that it can be for you and for your studying. With that, let's get on to the video. Alright, and welcome to video number 2 of the muscle draw exercises. In this video, we are going to be focusing on some of the muscles that move the hip. If you haven't already, you can download this sheet as well as the other ones from the other videos at anatomyhelper.com. If you go to the website and then click on the blog that talks about muscle supplemental exercises, you can find this page. Alright, so let's get started. We're going to start with the Psoas Major. And this muscle actually is going to originate up in the back and on these transverse processes here on the vertebrae from T12 all the way through L5. And it's going to insert down here at the lesser trochanter of the femur. And that's that bump right there. It's actually seen best in the posterior view. So I'm just going to connect all of these. Alright, the next muscle is going to be the iliacus. And this one actually originates in the iliac fossa, which is the kind of bowl-like shape of the ilium here. Some teachers will say that it originates on the iliac crest. And this is also going to insert on the lesser trochanter of the femur. And the fibers are going to blend together as they do that. So sometimes this muscle is called the Iliopsoas muscle, which is the combination of the Psoas Major and the Iliacus. And the Iliopsoas muscle is going to be a prime mover for hip flexion. So it's the major muscle that flexes the hip. Next, we have the Tensor Fasciae latiae, and this muscle originates at the iliac crest, specifically the anterior part of it, right here, and then it's going to insert on the iliotibial tract. So the iliotibial tract is simply a connective tissue sheet that's going to run along the lateral surface of the thigh, and it will insert down here on the lateral condyle of the tibia. It's going to be a major reinforcer of the knee on the lateral side. And we have several of our muscles that will actually insert on this, including some of the glutes. So it's going to go like that. Okay, now we're going to move into our adductors. The first one we're going to look at is Pectineus. And this one's going to originate on the superior ramus of the pubis. So the pubic bone is here, and the superior ramus is this top part. Ramus means bridge or connector, so that's going to be this part up here. and we'll insert all of these adductors actually are going to insert on the linea aspera of the femur, and that's technically posterior, so we're not going to see it here, but I'm just going to draw a line and we can pretend that that is connecting behind that femur on the linea aspera. Next, we're going to look at the Adductor Brevis. And this one's going to originate on the inferior ramus, so that's down here. And we'll also insert on the linea aspera. Now these are called adductors. The next one we're going to look at is Adductor Longus, and we're going to see Adductor Magnus. All of these are going to cause adduction, which means this femur, in this case, is going to be moving towards the midline. And we can actually see that if we look at the insertion point and we move the insertion point towards the origin point of these muscles, we'll see that that causes the femur to move towards the midline. So now looking at Adductor Longus. This is going to originate on the pubic crest and the pubic symphysis. And we'll also be inserting on the linea aspera of the femur. And this is a little bit larger muscle, so I'm going to create a couple lines like this. Now what I want to point out here is on the charts, or at least on the cadaver, you're going to see Pectineus, and then you're going to see Adductor Longus. Adductor Brevis is actually hiding behind these muscles, and you have to separate Pectineus from Longus in order to see Adductor Brevis. All right, the next adductor we're going to look at is Adductor Magnus, and this is seen best in the posterior view. So although I'm going to show it to you here on the anterior view of the skeleton, when you're looking at the charts or on the cadaver, you're going to see this muscle posterior, on the posterior views of those things. So it's going to, we've got two spots where it's going to originate: the inferior ramus of the pubis again, and the ischial ramus, and some professors will even say the ischial tuberosity. And then it is going to insert on the entire length of the linea aspera. So again, all of these lines, you could call them fascicles, I guess, are going to be inserting behind this femur on that linea aspera. Now because these muscles all insert on the linea aspera and they're all going to be originating up here on the pelvis, they're going to all cause lateral rotation of the femur as well as adduction. Next, we're going to look at Gracilis. This is a weak adductor, and it's going to be seen right down the midline of the thigh. It's going to originate at the pubic symphysis and pretty much come kind of straight down, and then we'll insert at the proximal medial surface of the tibia. So proximal meaning towards the point of attachment, or we can say top. Medial meaning it's towards the middle, or towards the midline of the body, so in here, and then the surface. So right there, we're going to see a couple other muscles that also insert there. Then lastly, for this video, we're going to look at Sartorius, and I'm going to actually erase this other stuff so that you can see the origin point of the Sartorius. It's going to originate at the anterior superior iliac spine, which is right here. You also should know, probably from your class, anterior inferior iliac spine, and we're going to see a muscle in the next video that originates there. So the Sartorius is going to originate anterior superior iliac spine, and you can actually palpate that or feel that on your own hip. It's going to be pretty much the only part you can feel on the anterior part of your hip. And this is a very long muscle. It's going to cross from the lateral side all the way to the medial side and insert at that proximal medial surface of the tibia, or I like to shorten it and say PMS. I'll draw on the gracilis, since that also is going to insert on the PMS. And then we're going to learn two muscles in the next video that also, two of the hamstring muscles that also insert on the proximal medial surface of the tibia. And we can remember all four of these muscles by saying Grace, which stands for Gracilis, Sarah, which stands for Sartorius, and the semi-twins, which are these two, all have PMS today. They all insert on the proximal medial surface of the tibia. That's it for this video. The next video will have some of the muscles that move the knee, and I hope to see you there.